thing that I think is a major thing for me that I believe the authorities need to get hold of is that education. I've always said get rid of the word prison and make it a college. And
for the young offenders?
Young offenders and some adult offenders as well. That
need education.
Yeah. Because education's a big thing, we know that education's a big thing. If you haven't got that education, if you can't read or write, you're not going to go nowhere, I'm a good example. I know that you can go places, you can do things, I can write music now, I can put a few chords together and...
You've got that beautiful art that we haven't gone into.
Yeah, we've got that to have a look at and... and I thank God for that, and we've all got a little niche out there somewhere, and you've got to find it, and once you find it, you've got to work on it, and, and I found with art, because I always thought art was just painting, but art just covers so much, like this sort of stuff is a form of art, painting, sewing, knitting, it's all a form of art.
And the more education you have, the more you can access that kind of expression.
Yeah.
Creativity.
Yeah.
Higher learning.
Yeah. And, you can go places and, once people know that, or they can see that you're trying, or they see potential, they'll see probably where you're meant to be. And that right person will come along that day and go, mate, you need to look at doing this. And they'll take you, they'll hold your hand. And they'll take you down that road and they'll support you and I've found this.
So between literacy, reading the Bible, your conversion and the higher principles that you started to live your life by,
yep.
Music and art, and also helping people through those other programs that you've got involved with running,
yep.
You've educated yourself.
Yeah.
God's educated you,
but
also you've been active in your own education, and you feel that an opportunity for education for young offenders in particular, but also for some adult offenders, is exactly what they need.
Exactly, because as you know, I couldn't read or write, and as I say, look, it's taken me the little bit that I've got. It's taken me places.
Well, you've written a book?
I've written a book, yeah. Which, 50 years ago wouldn't have happened.
You wouldn't have even thought that it was on the cards.
Even this, so yeah, it can happen. And as I say, if someone sees you playing the guitar or painting, and they do that, and they're pretty good at it, they will always come and offer you a little bit of advice, and I'm always open to it, and always tell people, be open to keep your ears open and listen.
Yeah. Des, thanks for coming to see us today here at the old Gundagai jail.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah.
It's not somewhere that you were in prison, but it's obviously, there's a lot of history here for a lot of people for a long It's a historical building. Can you just share with me what kind of feelings that you felt when you walked into this building today?
When I first walked in here, I looked at the windows and the roof there, and it brought back memories of when I was in a special unit for the worst 10 prisoners in the state of New South Wales. That's what came back to me. And looking at them windows and just remembering the amount of times that I'd get up to them windows and just to get a bit of fresh air and some sort of freedom. It wasn't really freedom, but in your mind it was a form of a freedom, just to be able to look out through their bars.
Do you think that prisons have improved much?
Not really. It's that was another thing that I noticed. As you say, this was built in the 1860s, and nothing's changed. Nothing. you can go into jails like Coleman Jail or Long Bay Jail, Parramatta Jail, and the windows are the same, the doors and everything are all the same, the bars. Yeah, so from that point of view, no, nothing's changed. The next 7 paintings we're going to see are 7 paintings of my life story. The Goannas, that represents me as a young boy, as I got a few years older, and then a few more years. That's the young boy, broken-hearted and crying. The red represents the blood that was spilt from me through the abuse, the physical abuse that I was subjected to by my father. The footprints of my journey going through all that abuse. So that, and the background, my life was just foggy. I couldn't understand what it was all about. So the background represents that as well.
Okay. So can you tell me about your pathway into the justice system?
What happened was, from 7 years of age to 12 years of age too, my father used to always flog me. But Dad's floggings weren't just a slap on the backside. Dad's floggings were full-grown fists, kicks, and like I've shared with people, that I'd be on the floor screaming. You can imagine 9 or 10-year-old kids screaming, being kicked. And if a chair got in the way, he'd grab the chair and he'd smash you with the chair as well, If the table got in the way, the same thing, So they were the floggings, and they were real floggings, Today, I sort of stop and I look at them floggings and I think, most men wouldn't do that to one another when they get angry with one another, For them 4 or 5 years, there was many a time that I went to bed hungry,
So I also understand that you had so many bruises so often that your mum kept going from school so people didn't know. And so therefore you missed out on an education.
Yep. Right? I'd been to school a couple of times and got ridiculed by the other children because I'd shown all the bruising and that, and anyhow I just couldn't cope with it, so I'd run away from school, and then I'd wag school for 3 or 4 days, and word had come home to my parents that I hadn't been to school, and back through the cycle again. Anyhow, the first introduction to the courts of that was, I was 9 years of age. I'd been flogged for 2 years by my father, and I decided at 9 that I was going to run away from home. So I went and broke into this house to get some money. We went out to this industrial area where we knew there was some cars. There was me and another guy, and he was about my age. We decided we'd steal this car, and anyhow, we got in the car and started the car. The next thing, this guy come running out, and he's opened the door and told us to get out and go. So we decided, well, we've got to go home. So we went home, and it's about, I don't know, 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock at night or something. And I come home, and what I'd done was, when I'd broken into that house, I'd stolen a watch, and I had this watch on my wrist, and I came through the back door of my house, and my mother was there washing up, and she said, grab the tea towel and start wiping up. And I just automatically pulled my sleeves up. She saw this watch, and the question was, where did that come from? And I wasn't real smart enough to be able to lie, so I told her what had happened. So she said to me, she said, go straight to bed. So I went to bed. Next thing, might have been an hour, might have been half an hour. Next thing there's a knock on the front door. And I just knew it was the police, you know. Anyhow, next thing my father comes in the bedroom and he says, come out here. So I go out in the lounge room. And it was, I laugh about it today, but my father used to always say to me, if you ever question why the police are anything, don't tell them nothing. Just deny everything. I went, okay. Anyhow, he said to me, sit down there. So I sat down in the lounge chair. And this detective asked me a couple of questions and I denied it. Because all I could hear in my head was my dad saying, you just don't tell them anything. The next thing my dad said to me, and he raised his voice and swore at me and said, tell the truth, you know. And I freaked, so I told the truth. And as I say, I can laugh about it today. And our next thing I know, I get taken to the police station and I get charged with break and enter. And it was so funny, I couldn't make sense of it at the time, but after I'd been charged, I was bailed to my parents. And I'm thinking, when I go home, I'm going to get a flogging. But I realised sometime later that if he'd have flogged me that night and I'd have went to court, black and blue the next morning, someone might ask questions. So he was pretty cunning, the old fella, you know. As a young boy, to be kicked and punched was part of Dad's plan. This went on and on, no such thing as love for this boy. The day he died, I couldn't cry, I felt relief with him lying on the floor. A heart attack, taking him away, no more pain to cry no more. Here I go, through the rain and the snow, wind and gales and time. Every day I wake, I pray to God to help me make it through the day. Jesus turns things around. I have family now, 2 sets of footprints across the sand. I'm free now. I walk through the fields and appreciate the small things in life. No more prisons of prison, no more prisons of fear, they have gone now. Here I go, through the rain and the snow, wind and gales and time. Here I go, through the rain and the snow, wind and gales and time. The goanna represents me because I'm a Kamilaroi man, which is my totem. The snakes represent the perpetrators that abused us young kids in the institutions. The footprints of my journey again. The hand represents the power. I'm able to take the power back today with the brush and been able to tell my story. So the hand, the different colours, all that confusion, and the footprints of the journey. But the snakes, they represent the perpetrators. Because you know in life if someone's a bit evil or whatever, we call them a bit of a snake. And that's what the snakes represent. I was in an institution at Muswellbrook, and I've been there, I don't know, probably a month or so, and every week we were allocated different jobs in this. It was like a big house, 2-story house, and the people looked after us, the carers. There was a flat on the end of this house that they lived in, and they could step out their door and it would take them straight into the dormitory. And anyhow, that was my job this week. I was the upstairs boy, the dormitory boy, and you had to mop and sweep and mop and do any dusting, clean the windows and stuff like that. Anyhow, this day I'm in one of the rooms where there was just one bed. The officer, the male person, came out into the dormitory I was working, and he came into the room where I was, and he ordered me to hop onto the bed. I don't need to tell any more, but I think we know what happened there. And from that point, he just went back into the flat because it was his day off. You know, I knew what had happened wasn't right. I felt horrible, I felt strange, I felt dirty, I felt totally lost. Because I'd been abused physically by my father. Now I'm subject to this sort of stuff. You know, what's this life all about, sort of thing. Then later on that morning, we marched off to school, and what they used to do was we'd march up to the deputy's office. The lady or the man that was in charge, that they would go in and report any incidences that had happened overnight. Anyhow, this lady was in charge this day. She went in. We're standing there. She come out and she called me into the deputy's office. I'm like, oh, what's this all about? So in I go. And the deputy said, oh, Mrs. So-and-so's got something to say. I want you to stand there and listen to it. So I said, oh yeah, no worries. Anyhow, she made these allegations about me, and they weren't true. Anyhow, next thing I get punished. Now the punishment was that you went on half meals, and then, you know, while everybody was playing sport or playing games or whatever, I'd either have to sit in the corner or stand up on a footpath up in the sun. And then of a morning, while everybody was doing their jobs, I'd have to go and get a bucket of water and scrub the footpath with this bucket of water. And then one morning she come out, and it was a cold winter's morning, and I didn't want to put my hand into the cold water because it was too cold. And this morning she come up, and I've got the brush in the water, just wetting the bristles on the scrubbing brush, and she grabbed my hand and pushed my hand right into the water. And I thought, oh my God, what's this all about? You know? So I just, as I say, I copped it on the chin. I accepted it, and I thought, not a problem. So away I went, and just kept going on. And that went on for 3 weeks, that sort of punishment. One of the other punishments that they used to give you when you were unprivileged was you'd have to get a toothbrush, and you'd have to scrub the floor with the toothbrush. So I'd be doing that, and just in little circles, and you'd just go around like that. And yeah, while the other boys were in bed reading their comics or whatever they were reading, and 9 o'clock had come and it'd be lights out, and I'd have to get into bed, and no privilege of reading a comic or a book or anything. It was just straight to bed, straight to sleep. There was one night there when I was unprivileged that this lady that was in charge, she come in, and she's turned on all the lights, told everyone to get up. We all went downstairs, we're all taken downstairs, and we're all made to have cold showers. You know, it could have been 10, 11 o'clock at night, I couldn't tell you. But here we were in a nice warm bed, dragged down to bed, taken downstairs, cold showers turned on, and you were told to get into a cold shower. So that was just another part of the punishment.
the things that they used to do to us. Here I go, through the rain and the snow, wind and gales and tide. I was still unprivileged, I was being punished. And then this morning, we get called in for breakfast, and being the unprivileged guy, I had to come in last. So I'm out there, and I got to the back door, and I looked into the unit, the house sort of thing, looked across the paddock, and I did that a couple of times, and I thought, okay, let's go. Because I knew what had happened wasn't right. I just knew it wasn't right. So I headed off, and I just took off, and I ran, and I just kept running, and through the paddocks, through the fences, and eventually I made my way to, it was called Bell Mountain. I got to Bell Mountain, and I went up into the scrub. I got to the top of Bell Mountain, and I remember the lady and the husband used to always say, any kid that ran away and went over Bell Mountain, they were never ever found again. And it was just a bit of a bluff, but at the time we took it serious.
Something to scare people.
Yeah. So I got there, and I just sat down and just waited for the day to go. And anyhow, eventually I stayed overnight in the bush, and the next morning I come down, and I thought, well, I'll get on the road. I had no idea where I was. I thought I'll just follow the road, you know. I don't know, I might have walked probably 20 minutes or so, and next thing this police car come along, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gone. What do I do, you know? And how they pulled up and asked, they knew who I was, you know what I mean? Asked me who I was, and I gave them some name, and anyway, after a bit of a conversation, the copper got out and put me in the back of the car, and they took me into the Muswellbrook police station. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen now? You know what I mean? And over the hours, I'm in this room, the copper would come in, he'd probably ask how I'm going, probably bring me in a drink of water or whatever, and he'd leave, and someone else would come in, and he'd go, and it just went on for a couple of hours like that. And then eventually this guy comes in, he was a policeman, and I think he said to me, he said, well, what'd you run away from? And I told him what had happened, you know. I thought stuff, and I'm just going to tell him. So I told him. So he went out, and after a period of time, two guys come in, and the third guy, the one that I'd spoken to, he said, can you tell these guys what happened? Just tell them what you told me. And I told them. I thought, oh, no worries. So I told them. They went, and eventually they brought me lunch, and I thought, oh, what's going on? I had no idea what was going on. Anyhow, eventually they come and they said, we're going to take you back to the institution. I'm thinking, oh my God, what's this all about? You know, I ran away from there because I'd been abused, and I knew what had happened wasn't right. How do you win? So I go back to the institution, and they go in, I sat in the car, and they go in, they talk to the whoever, I think it was the deputy or superintendent, whatever it was, and eventually they come out and they take me inside, and nothing was ever done, nothing. I was just told that I'd go back to the unit and nothing was going to be done. You just keep doing what you do.
Just swept it under the carpet.
Yeah. You know, and you try to live with that. I'd been in the juvenile justice system, and I'd been abused, and it was always on my mind. And I'm about 18 years of age, probably 19 by this, and so I used to drink a fair bit. Anyhow, I'd made this plan, and my plan was I'm going to go to work this week. I'm going to get paid. They're going to do a full week's work, get paid, and I'm going to save so much of that money. And I was going to save enough to buy a car, and I wanted to buy a gun. And the thing was, I was going to drive back to Muswellbrook, and I was going to get that guy that abused me up there. So every week I'd get paid, and I'd think, well, I deserve a couple of beers, so I better go and have a couple of beers. And I'd go in and I'd start drinking, and it might be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or 10 o'clock that night. I'd be drunk, I'd have no money, never got to save any money to fulfill that plan.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And today I laugh about it. I think, my God, having this alcohol problem and drinking all my money saved a lot of heartache for a lot of people. Here I stand with a gun in my hand, waiting to take you away. You took my soul and left a great hole, and you walked away. I was there in your care, placed there by the courts. You took my soul and left a great hole, and you tore me apart. Lies were told, left a great hole, all to protect this man. He had his way and left me that day. I could not understand. Here I stand with a gun in my hand, wait to take you away. You took my soul and left a great hole, and you walked away. I left that place in disgrace, drank and drugged all my life. In for a while and out for a while, that was the rest of my life. 40 years without a tear, I felt it well in my eye. Rolled down my cheek, I felt relief. Now I understand why. Here I stand with a gun in my hand, wait to take you away. You took my soul and left a great hole, and you walked away. Here I stand with a gun in my hand, wait to take you away. You took my soul and left a great hole, and you walked away. Right, this is number 3. That the bars and the brickwork represent me being in jail. The fist represents the anger, but as a result of the hand being able to paint and tell my story, I was taking control of the snakes, the perpetrators again, and they're slowly fading out of my life. That's why they're off in the distance like that. And that was me, I only ever knew violence. If something was said or done that I felt threatened, the only answer I had was to use violence. Later on, with the drinking and the violence and the thinking, it took me to places people don't want to go. Yeah.
Life-altering, terrible abuse.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what you think about revenge?
What helps me today, and I thank God, is that there's a reading in the Bible. It's mentioned a couple of times in the Bible. I can't remember exactly, but it says that every man will bow down, every tongue will confess for the things done in the body, whether good or bad. And that helps me, because I believe that what God's saying to me there is, all right, those people have done this stuff to you, but they're going to have to answer to me. And I would rather let God deal with it than me deal with it, because I do believe that God's got the answer. He knows just what they deserve, you know. I could do it my way, but it's just going to cause more heartache and pain for a lot of people, myself. So I just hand it over to God, and I just let God deal with it. You know, and as you go on in life, you know, and the life that I lived, I learned about the corruption and lies and the cover-ups and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I realised what had happened, what had gone on here.
When you shared your story with me and you showed me your book called Pusillanimous.
Pusillanimous, yeah.
And what was the meaning behind that word?
It means a person with a small mind and lacking courage. And when I on my travels, while I was in prison and that, learning to read and write and that, I'd come across this word, pusillanimous. Person with a small mind lacking courage. Well, as I went along, I believe God said to me, that's going to be the name of your book, because you're going to be talking about these people that have got small minds and lack courage. Because to me, you've got to have a small mind. You've got to lack courage to do that sort of stuff to kids.
And to also turn a blind eye?
Yeah.
And to put you back into the lion's den?
Yeah. There was another particular institution that I was in that was in the ACT, and I was subjected to some horrific stuff there. I tried to escape. I got caught. I was dragged, put into this empty cell. There was a bed, there was a shower and a toilet, basically that we've got here. Stripped naked, and I was there for 14 days. And I was abused over that 14 days. And there were some terrible things done to me, you know. So I got compensated for that particular time.
Okay. I'm so sorry to hear all that.
Mate, it's, you know, I tell you what, it's terrible, it's sad, you know, and there's a lot of us out there that have gone through it. But, you know, I believe it's made me stronger. It gives me the opportunity now to be able to say to people, this is what went on. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for a pat on the back or anything. I just want people to know that, yeah, all right, somebody may do something wrong, but let's have a real good look at this situation. Why is this person doing what he's doing? You know, and address it. I honestly believe that, you know, like I just said, if there's a young fella that's playing up, we need to have a look at what's going on in his life. We need to get that kid to open up and talk and share what it is that's happening to him. Because you know, most kids just don't play it for the fun of it. There's always a reason there, you know, and we've got to find what that reason is, you know, and address that reason. You know, if a guy's not going to school or a young girl's not going to school, then we need to stop and then find out what's going on there, and then offer them the opportunity to get educated, because education, I found, like you just said, I taught myself to read and write thanks to the Bible, thanks to God. He helped me to read and write. And if most people can get to learn to read and write, they're half a chance. You know? Because if you go anywhere these days and you're going to fill something out, if you can read and write, you're half a chance. You know? And also encourage them to ask questions. Don't be ashamed to ask a question about, look, I don't understand, or could you explain this to me? The hands, once again, is me taking control of the situation, taking the power back. The broken shackles is that I've managed to break free from the pain and all that torture and suffering that I went through. That's what the broken cuffs represent. The perpetrators and the shackles are coming to get the perpetrators now. And the colour out there in the background represents the beauty, the joy and love that I have today in my life.
In your later life, you've written some programs that I've seen.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little about how that is linked to what you were going through, what you were just saying?
Yeah, what happened was after my last prison sentence, I'd come home and the parole said part of your parole conditions are that you must go to AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. So I went there and I thought, well, you know, if it's going to keep me on the street free, I'll do whatever I have to do, you know. Yeah, so I go to AA and I buy their big book and I start reading their big book, which is the AA program, and there was one word, resentment. I kept going over this one word, resentment, and I made a connection for myself. I thought, yeah, I can relate to resentment. So over a period of time, I jumped on the web and I started searching, because I'd got to a point where I realised it was my emotions that used to take me to places. So I found this program called Emotions Anonymous. I got it in from America, and then I've come up with a journaling format as a result of reading this stuff. Now that journaling format really helped me, because there's 5 sections: the situation, your thoughts, your feelings, body sensations and behaviour. Sitting here now is a situation, so I'd write that down. Then I'd write my thoughts on this situation. And I'd go in and I went and searched on the web for a lot of feeling words. And then I got to a point where I'd written up all those feeling words and I'd try to identify particular feeling words with that situation. And then body sensations, which was a big one for me. You know, I didn't realise that clenching your jaw is a body sensation. Going like that is a body sensation. You know, blinking, they're all body sensations. And this was the type of stuff that I used to go through. And I used to always thought, like, if I'd clench my fist or clench my jaw, it's sort of, in my mind, it'd give me that drive to go and do whatever I had to do, use that violence. But today I realised that all that was doing was putting stress on my body. So I worked on the body sensation as well. And then behaviour, how did I behave? Well, today, when there's a situation, I go through all that stuff. And most of the time when it comes to behaviour for me, it's either just get up and walk, you know, or express how I feel about the situation. You know, and today I'm able to go, mate, you know, when you did that, I feel this, you know.
So you're able to express those emotions in other ways?
Yeah, instead of that.
Yeah, the other thing I can say, it's the best thing that has ever happened to me, as you say, you know, just them words. The power within them words for me is just incredible. And it's not that power anymore, you know. Because
you found a way to describe it.
Yeah.
You found a way to cognitively manage it.
Yeah. And, you know, and little things like this probably don't mean much to a lot of people, but I've shared them words with solicitors and people, educated people, and they've gone, no, never heard of it. What's it mean? And just for me to hear that from a person that had the opportunities to get educated, never heard of it, don't know what it's all about, it just makes me go from there to there, go, wow, it's only one word, but it just proves that I must be doing something right. And here's a guy or here's a person with an education that's never heard of it, how good do I feel? And that's a power within itself, if that makes sense.
And you feel that those words came to you in somehow linked to your growing spirituality?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the program. I was lucky. I ran that program for 10 years in Canada,
You ran the program.
Yeah, for 10 years. And,
Did you find that you learnt a lot while you were actually teaching that?
And mate, it was so funny. I'll share a little story with you. There was this lady come to this program, and I talk about God a fair bit. You know what I mean? How God's helped me, sort of thing. And this particular night, I mentioned the word God to this lady, and she went, "Don't give me that. Don't give me that God thing." I went, "Oh, look out." But I'd learnt G-O-D, good order direction. So I said to this lady, I said, "What about this, good order direction?" She went, "I like that, I'll take that." Now to me it's still God, because God gives me good order direction, you know what I mean?
A lot of people do criticise any kind of 12-step program because of the acknowledgement of a higher power.
Yeah.
They don't like that, for some reason, superstition, whatever. They don't like it.
No, I found that, yeah. You know, you mentioned God or higher power and that, because sadly, like I did the same. I survived on me, you know, but today I've got my God in my life, higher power, whatever you want to call it.
You know, like it's been 15 years now, and thanks be to God, you know, it's the longest I haven't drunk since 1992 because of the cancer and that. I came home where the temptations were, and I haven't bothered about it. I need to be careful where I go, you know, who I hang with. If people are drinking and that, well, I don't go in there, and I avoid them because it's so easy to pick up, and I know the consequences of picking up a drink. And yeah, I just spend my time with myself, my God, and Christian people, and and these last 15 years has proved that God's word does work and it helps.
Yeah, which makes life so much easier for me.
The goanna is getting bigger now and he's taking control. The hands represent taking the power back. And the circles, the colourful circles, once again represents the beauty and the joy that I'm having with life today. In the background you can see bits of purple. Just a quick story. I was in Maitland Jail and there was a guy going escort from Maitland Jail to Longboat Jail. And he said to me just out of the blue before he left, he said, "I can see your aura." Oh, okay, right. And he said, "It's purple." I went, wow. And it's funny, you know, because ever since a little kid I can always remember purple was my favourite colour. Now whether there's a connection there or not, I don't know. But so I like to put the purple in a lot of my stuff these days. I didn't know much about it until I went to prison and I started talking to a few of the boys. And just little things that have been said and done over the years when I was a child with my father. Talking about bull roarers. I can't think of much more, but and then when I started talking to a couple of the boys that come from the northwest, where my father originally came from, and I learnt about the Gunnedah people, and over the years I managed to make a connection, and eventually I'll jump ahead a little bit, but when I was released I went to Gunnedah and lived up there and got talking to a lot of the boys from the Lands Council. And I was taken out and shown bits and pieces, and that's how I managed to become aware.
What does that mean to you today in your life?
Today it gives me a sense of belonging. Where before I didn't belong. I was just drifting. But having culture now, I can sit out and I can talk about culture, and I know that there's something within me that I can share, and it's very personal.
Des is a good man, and he's seen a lot of stuff in his life. He's an Aboriginal brother. He's written a lot of good songs, and I was pleased to be able to share this little set with him this morning. I can recommend you get to know this man at some time. He's had an incredible life.
Thanks, Dougie. My name's Des. My tribal name is Mullion, and it's the Mullion bird, the message bird. And today I hope to be able to bring a message and share with you guys. So we'll start off with tribal ways, which is the story about culture and how we live today. So let's see how we go. Oh. In my tribal land, I live with my tribal clan. We cherish our peaceful tribal way. We lived as one. There was always fun, and respect was part of our way. On initiation day, I was taken away by the tribal man of our clan. I learned to the law and how to bowl the warrior's stand. To take them back to the tribal ways, to take them back to the tribal ways, to take them back to the tribal ways, to take them back to the tribal ways. On my first hunt, I speared a red buck, and my family was proud that day. The didgeridoo, the robbery too, were part of the law them days. I captured a wife from the Kuno tribe, and I had to kill the warrior that day. The women hunt yams, berries and nuts. That was the food for that day. To take them back to the tribal ways, to take them back to the tribal ways, to take them back to the tribal ways, to take them back to the tribal ways. Of the tribal past, Malgabrai people were the enslaved. These days have gone, cannot be more. White society has changed them ways. I'd like the past, revolutionary past. Greenhouse effect is today. From tens of thousands, our people have gone. They mixed with whites today. To take them
emerging in our paintings today. Some speak their tongue, others gone on the run. Let's resolve these issues today. We roll the dice when we play with ice. We need to change our life today. The vegetable sniffing is a wasteful transition. Ourselves are to blame. Take them back to the tribal ways. We'll take them back to the tribal ways. To take them back to the tribal ways. To take them back to the tribal ways. The youngsters followed us. We lost touch. Let's turn things around today. Our native tongue would combine us as one, so the young ones would have somewhere to stay, to escape from this life of trouble and strife, to remember the old fellow's ways. Our culture's there, let's share our wares. This is part of our fight today. To take them back to the tribal ways. 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 Embrace our life. Treaty, not strife. All the cultures will gain today. Contract our treaty, very young and meaty. All the states will embrace this way. To take them back to the tribal ways. To take them back to the tribal ways. To take them back to the tribal ways. To take them back to the tribal ways.
This painting represents the hands, represents the power that I'm able to take back with the paintbrush. I've been able to paint my story. In the background you can see the goanna. Well, that represents my father, who was the abusing one in my early years. The star effects, they represent the beauty and the colourful things and the joy in my life today, and my God. And the fogginess in the background is covering up the beautiful things yet to come. You can't see them, but they're coming.
I was lying in a prison cell in Goulburn jail, and I was just felt my neck, and I felt this lump in my neck, and anyhow I thought it was just some swollen glands, so I went over to the clinic the next day in the jail, spoke to the nurse and told her that I had this lump in my throat. To go and see the doctor, he had a bit of a feel, and he said, I'm going to send you down to see the specialist, which meant a trip to Longbow Jail. So down I go. Anyhow, eventually I get back to Goulburn. Next morning, instead of going to hospital, I go to Goulburn.
18 months later, I get back to the hospital. The specialist was there and he said to me, he said, where have you been? And I told him. He said, if we could have got to you 18 months ago, he said, we could have took the left nodule out where the lump was, and you could have survived on the right one because of that 18 months period where I was taken back to Goldman and then gone from the left to the right. I thought I was going back to the unit where I'd come from a few weeks before, sort of thing. And then the officer said to me, he said, you're going to segregation. I got an order to take you up to the segregation unit. And I thought, oh, this is strange. Because, you know, only people go to segregate when they've done something wrong. And all I want to do is die. I just want to die. And so for 3 days, that's all that kept going through my head is I want to die, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die. And then on the 3rd day, the cell door opened. There's a prison officer and the chaplain. And I thought, oh my God, what's this all about, you know? That was the last thing I wanted. And now the chaplain comes in and I can still hear him saying, I've heard about your condition, can we have a prayer? I said, oh, this is the last thing I need. I said, I'm thinking all I want to do is die. And even while he's talking to me, that's all that kept going through my head is I want to die, I want to die. Anyhow, he sits down on the bed, I sit on the bed, and I laugh today because he blesses himself. I thought, I better bless myself, so I bless myself. He puts his hands together, I thought I better do that. He shuts his eyes, I shut my left eye, I kept my right eye open on him, because I never trusted nobody. And, you know, he's one person I could have trusted. And now he's praying, and all that's going through my head is, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die. I couldn't tell you what he'd said, but I remember we got to the end of the prayer, and he said, Amen. And the moment he said amen, that thought went to, I'm going to beat this. The priest stood up, shook my hand, wished me all the best, and walked out the cell, and they locked the cell. And I'm looking around going, what was that all about? I'm looking around this cell. And as I looked across, on the bunk was a Bible. I picked the Bible up, and I just randomly opened that Bible, and I just went like that. And this is what I read. This sickness will not end in death. I freaked. I closed that Bible and I put it back on the bed. I'd heard that God with the heart speaks to people. And I thought, no, that can't be right. Anyhow, the fear, the guilt, all the guilt, the shame for all those years that I'd rejected God, didn't want him in my life, didn't want to know anything about it. He'd just spoken to me. And it was so funny because about 3 days later, after being back in the unit, that chaplain came into the unit. And, you know, keep in mind, I'm supposed to be a big, tough crim, whatever you want to call it. But I've worked out over the years that what it was, there was a little boy inside there screaming out for help. And the only help he knew was violence, you know. So here's this so-called big tough guy. The priest comes in and he goes, who's coming to church? And before I realised what had happened, I put my hand up. There's always crims around, and I'm thinking to myself, if anybody says anything, I'm going to hurt him. I'm going to hurt him real bad, because this tough guy should not be going to church. But nothing was said. Once again, that was God working. You know, God was working in my life again. So I go to church, I come back. Next week I go to church. About 3 weeks later, I go to church. And the chaplain says to me this day, he says, I've got a present for you. And keep in mind, I've never had a present in my life. And I thought, wow, how good is this? And I'm going to get a present. 42 years of age, I'm going to get a present. Anyhow, I'm sitting there, and he turns around with this Bible and gives me a Bible. And I'm thinking, are you for real? A Bible? Like, where's the present? I'm looking for.
Is this the Bible?
That's the Bible. Yeah. So, anyhow, this Bible, I managed to put a leather cover on it. I read Holy Bible on there, and but initially when he gave me that Bible without the cover, the first day I thought, I've got to put this up my jumper. I can't be seen carrying this Bible because all the other prisoners are going to think I'm weak. So I put the Bible up my jumper, and I went back to the unit, ran straight into my cell, grabbed the Bible and hid it under the pillar. I thought, if anyone says anything. But it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I've discovered that the Bible is a history book as well. The Old Testament tells us about all the old times. Then we get to the New Testament where Jesus comes into play. And then we get the letters from the Apostle Paul. And Paul refers back to a lot of the Old Testament, which really helped me. And so when I'm reading Paul's letters, and he'd quote a section from somewhere in the Old Testament, I would go back and I'd have a look at it. And with time, my reading improved, my spelling improved. I'd learned about dictionaries, so I managed to get myself a dictionary. And then on my travels, I picked up a thesaurus, which helped me. So, I didn't realise at the time that my education, my reading was improving, and I was loving it. I had this guy in my life. Word had got around the prison system that he's this so-called big tough guy had found this God thing, and today I laugh. I had to use violence to get people away from me. When God came into my life, people, they wouldn't literally scatter, but they'd slowly drift away whenever I walked into the yard, especially if I had to work and had my Bible. And it was like, quick, get out of here, here he comes. Here comes this rat bag with this God thing. And it was good. I didn't have to use the violence, I didn't have to pump myself up with everything. Just the fact that here's this guy that loved Jesus, had God in his life, and that's all he'd talk about was God. And most Christians now want to talk about God. So life becomes so much easier. And that was 4 years into a 20-year prison sentence. And it was funny, the next 16 years, thanks be to God, they had the body, but they didn't have the spirit. The go-ins represent me. I'm out in the universe there with my God. That's where I feel safe, out there with my God. They represent the planets and the things that are coming. There's some beautiful stuff coming. That's that white section in the centre there. The goanna, me, and my God. I've got the key now. I'm just trying to imagine how tough it would have been for them guys that were mining here.
When did you start learning the guitar?
Probably the last, probably 20 years. But prior to that, I think I might have known one or two chords, I really didn't,
You seem to pick it up pretty good.
Mate, yeah, it's Yeah, like I was only saying to a guy the other day that with Google, there's so much you can Google now, you know. Like if you come across a chord, you go, what the hell's that?
Yeah.
You can Google it,
Yeah.
you know, and you can go to 3 or 4 different sites and you'll find the one that works for you, and I'll go, this is what it's all about.
Cool.
You know?
What about with the art? Did you teach yourself, or was there any classes?
No, but I'll tell you what happened. I used to do shading with a pencil, and I'd draw trees and with a pencil. And now I got to a point where I thought, well, I want to go further with this. So there was an art teacher, and I went down to the art teacher this day, and I showed him what I was doing, and I asked him if he could help me sort of thing, you know. And he said, yeah, no worries. He said, wait there. Well, he went away, and he came back, and he had a piece of ply, and he put it on the table. He said, there's some paints, there's a couple of brushes, go for it. And I looked at him and I'm thinking, what?
You didn't mean to be teaching you.
Anyhow, I was blessed, right? Because the guy next to me
Yeah.
could paint,
Right.
right? So I just sort of watched him. So if he went that way, I went that way. Whatever he did, I tried.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, just developed from there. And then I got to a point where I used to go out into the prison yard and I'd look up into the sky, and the first colour I really saw was purple in the sky.
You mentioned purple.
Yeah.
I looked it up.
Oh, did ya?
What's the purple aura mean?
I don't know.
I looked it up. It said something about a close. It said lots of intuition and spirituality,
Oh, fair dinkum.
or something. Yeah, close connection to the spiritual realm.
Right. Well, it's funny because I got that feeling that there's some connection there. I don't know what it is.
It's just a spirituality, brother.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mate, what I'm happy about, what I'm appreciating is that, years ago, I never had money in my pocket. You know, today I've got money in my pocket. I get my pension every fortnight and I survive on it.
Yeah.
You know, I do well. I don't go out and spend money on restaurants and things like that. I just sort of keep it pretty simple, you know. You probably heard that saying, KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I work with that one.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, because I got to be stupid for some of the things that I did.
Right, wow. I think we're all a bit like that.
Yeah. Just, I had my own car and having money in my pocket now and, going through the court matter, or it wasn't a court matter, but going through the compensation thing with the stolen generation stuff and that was a bit of a struggle, but I've worked through it, and I appreciated what they did. I got a nice letter from some lady in federal parliament apologising for what had happened, and that made me feel good, to be acknowledged. And things like her saying, you were in our care and this is what happened to you, you know what I mean? So they were taking a bit of the responsibility, which I thought was good too, So to hear these things that, if I can go, normal people sort of do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And say, accepted responsibility and things like that. But, being able to paint, do that bit of artwork, play about with the guitar, and I'm just trying to do what if I can say normal people do, have 3 meals sort of thing a day, and go for a drive. If I feel like a pie and a cake, like go and get it like normal people do, if I can say that. Yeah,
I guess after having experienced a totally different life,
that those kind of things, even though they seem very simple
Yeah.
to everyone, well, that's not something that you take for granted.
No, geez, no. It's as I say, appreciation, understanding, and you know, just to be able to walk into a shop and see all these different types of desserts and cakes and things that.
Stop it, man! You're making me hungry. Yeah.
You know, and you know, to be able to go, wow, you know, like this morning I went down and brought a packet of biscuits, and just to stand there and go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, sort of, you know, wow, they look nice, I'll try them. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What about your sort of social work? What's that look like?
It's very limited, but it's funny. I put that down to being isolated in prison and that sort of thing, and because like in prison, you haven't got any real good mates or friends or anything. You can't trust no one, you know. But you know, you've probably heard that saying that, you know, I don't mind my own company, you know, and yeah, and you know, I can have a bit of a yarn up here to myself, and
When there's no one else around.
yeah,
That's all right.
yeah. It's, as I say, me and Kev, we normally meet up at Fatlow there, and there's the bakery up there, and we'll go and have supper, we'll eat a cup of tea or coffee or something, and yeah, as I say, like to keep it simple. And
What about your church group?
church, I go to church once a month. We have a service the first Friday of the month, and it's lovely. I like that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We go in and we have Holy Communion, and then once that's over, we just sit around and just have a bit of a yarn, a cup of tea, and yeah, it's just, yeah, I like that sort of stuff. We have now been, if I can say, godly stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and then we just just sit around and have a yarn, and yeah, I like it. It goes for about probably 2 hours, but it's just nice.
What is it about your church that you like? What is it?
That's probably like there's three men that go there, myself and 2 other men, but it's been in the company of females sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is something I haven't had much to do with sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, just to be able to talk to a lady and yeah, just that woman's
Influence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's the social side of it. And what about the spiritual? I mean, you mentioned that you take communion there.
Yep. Yeah.
And I mean, what does that do for you?
That's I know very little about that stuff, but it's you know, when they mention the body of Christ sort of thing, it gives me that closeness to Christ.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
How's that work inside? Like, what is that?
It's yeah, there's a nice peaceful feeling, and the thought to know that that little piece of bread is the body of Christ. And to be reading about him this morning, to know how he died on the cross sort of thing, I don't know what the words are, but there's a nice little connection there sort of thing, you know? Yeah, so that sort of stuff is very, yeah, it's special for me, especially, you know, compared to where I've come from, because I had no real connection. I thought I did, but I didn't. But now I know that I've got something that I can lean on, have faith in. I know that Jesus is going to look after me, God, whatever, and yeah, he'll guide me through the day and yeah, keep me safe. So that sort of stuff, yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right.
I helped the guy out. His car had been stolen, and and Kevin, me mate, the guy that we went to see was Kevin's brother-in-law.
Oh, right.
So we went down there, and I took me. I had a RAV4, and I took that down and we done a deal and I sold it to him because he had no way of getting back to Queensland. But yeah, just that was an experience. You know what I mean? It's not every day of the week you do that sort of stuff, sell a car and be able to help someone out. But which was good, and yeah, I felt good. I felt as you know, I've done something positive and helped someone.
Yeah, because you lived on it.
It does, yeah. I
mean, you've been doing service in the community for other people for a long time now. I mean, maybe not right now.
No.
In those groups you were leading and stuff like that.
Yep. The big thing for me is education. Tell them to get education, because you know so many doors can open. The very little that I've got, I realise that doors can open, and you don't know where the doors are going to take you. You know, I saw something on TV the other night. I forget what it was, but this guy was watching RPA, I think it was. He was still in high school, and he saw these doctors working, and he said, "I'm going to be a doctor." So that's the type of thing that I'm saying. You know, you might be watching TV, you might be reading a book, you might be talking to someone, and someone just might say what it is you need. So the big thing is keep your ears open, keep your eyes open. If you can read and write, then I believe you're half a chance. You know.
So what if you were able to talk to young Des?
Oh, mate, if I could talk to young Des today, you know, I would take him aside and I would show him love and just let him know that he's safe. He doesn't have to scream and yell and rant and rave like I did, you know. I'm there to protect you, and I'll show you how to overcome these situations that are threatening to you.
I think it's a kind of education that's missing.
Oh, yeah, totally. They are missing it. Like the old people that would have been here 100 years ago, you know, or 100 whatever, you know, they had the wisdom and the know-how, and you know, they'd advise you, mate, I wouldn't do it that way, this is what you need to do. They might have been a bit rough and ready about it, but they told you, you know what I mean? And they put you on the right track. I'm not saying we've got to be rough and ready like they were, but you know, just depending on the individual. Some we're going to be really gentle with the message. Some we could just say, well, look, this is how it is, you know. But just being able to work out how to approach that person